Well, it is Hope here at Crafty Hope, and welcome to part 3 of my Ephemera Pack to Journal series. In this one, you can see I made a journal. It's got pockets at the front and the back. That was part 1. In part 2, I created this zippered belly band and then altered a little coin envelope was in there and made a tag. So that was part 2. I'll link both of those parts or the playlist. I'll link the playlist in the upper right, but all of it down below in the description box. So what I did, I played around with these little parts. They're 2 loose signatures. They're not loose. They're in pockets, but I felt like they needed something more. So in this third part, I'm going to alter the signature in the front pocket, which is this one I have pulled out. Now there are several bias tape bits loose in these ephemera packs, and yeah, I decided, let me see what I can do with this. So I took this green one that was already opened, I think it was already opened in the ephemera pack, and I'm cutting it down. It's going to slip underneath the thread that I bound the journal with and create kind of a faux cover-ish thing. I don't know what we're doing. This is something that I was just like, I have all of this bias tape in here. What interesting thing can we do with it? So in this one, this is how I'm going to use it. In my next video, I'm going to do something even more with the bias tape. But to start off, I felt like this bright green bias tape needed a little grunging, a little texture to it. So I've just got a permanent ink pad. I don't even remember what that is. and a stamp. And I'm just adding a little bit of this Tim Holtz stamp to it. That's a stamp that I received as a Happy Mail gift from my friend Terry. And I thought it was perfect for this. So I've altered these 2 little strips here. And like I said, I'm sliding them under the thread that's kind of in the on the spine, binding these together just to kind of hold it in place. So it doesn't, so this doesn't slip completely off of this. So as I was doing it, I was like, okay, I feel like this needs to have some kind of closure. What can I do? And I know I've got a bunch of buttons in that came out of that ephemera pack. So I was like, well, maybe I could make some kind of loop. Let me look at the buttons I've got here. So I pulled out just this random one from the mini buttons that are in that pack and thought, no, it'd have to sit really high, and I'm not sure I can figure out how to do that because this bias tape is so thick. And then I started thinking, oh, this bias tape is really thick. I wonder if I can just make a button loop, because this bias tape also is really hard to tear. I've tried to tear it down before, and it's a booger to tear. So I thought, well, unless I'm actually going to tear it, it would probably be fine to just cut a slit in it that a button can slip through. So I tested that, as you saw, on a scrap piece I pulled out, and yeah, I threw that scrap piece back in my little baking tray that I've got there. And thought, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. But first, I kind of want to add something on these 2 strips to make them more stable. So I pulled out this strip of map that I don't know, I had used it on something else, tore it down. Oh, I think it's in the journal. Yeah, I've used the other map, the big bulk of map pages, in one of the signatures. So I tore down these 2 pieces, and I'm going to start altering it. So first I'm adding some little bit of gesso that I'm going to brayer out. Now, if you're wondering what's going on this whole video in general, I have some Destash ephemera packs in my Etsy shop, and I kind of just wanted to create the challenge for myself to see what I could do with one of those packs. So I took one out of the shop and opened it up and created this journal using the envelope that all the ephemera and bits come in, along with some of the book pages that are in there, and even the thread that comes on a spool in there. Like I said, I'll have links to that playlist of the first 2 videos if you want to check that out, or if you just want to go grab one of the ephemera kits, there are some in my Etsy shop. Well, depending on when you watch this, but there should be some in the Etsy shop. And it's a bunch of stuff. As you can see, vintage photos and cards and buttons and bias tape and maps and book pages and thread and embroidery floss and y'all, I don't even know, just tons of stuff, tiny clothespins, all kinds of things to play with. And that's what I'm doing with this. I am kind of trying to think outside of the box and play with the things that are in it. And it's really getting me to experiment with different things. So as you saw, I pulled out one of those vintage photos that are there. This one is in there because it is not one I thought I could use. It has a big, like, bright spot on it. But I was like, that's kind of perfect. So I'm like, I'm going to use this. And there's also a sheet of large print journal in there that I've been using to pull sentiments out of. So I cut a sentiment off of it. I don't even remember what it says. It's not in front of me at the moment. And I inked up the sentiment. I'm inking up the photo. This is some walnut stain distress ink just on an ink blender. And I'm going to use that photo. Also, I realized that map wasn't quite sturdy enough to really to stabilize, I guess, the bias tape the way I wanted to. So I'm going to use that photo instead, but I want to alter it because it's got that big bright spot on there. So I've taken some, I don't even know, lime colored craft paint that's the same color as that bias tape and making some finger dots on it to kind of just alter this photo a bit and make you see past the that blur, that weirdness. So yeah, I put some finger dots down and I was like, oh no, I think I need more than that. So I'm going to add a few more and look at this. And it really, y'all, I don't know why I don't do this with photos more often, but this was a lot of fun to think about how I could upcycle this photo in a new way. Oh my goodness, y'all, I can hear my cats doing naughty things in the background. I'm sorry if you can hear it too. So I've put all of that aside, decided to come back to what am I coming back to? These map pages. So I'm going to go ahead and alter the other side as well with more of the gesso. And then I'm going to pull in the photo with the paint on it and heat dry everything, which was crazy because those map pages are so lightweight. They were trying to blow all over my desk. So I am going to clip that down so you won't get to see that, but just, yeah. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm thinking I'm going to sort through some stuff, think about it. Oh my goodness, what am I doing? There's so many options with that ephemera pack that, that's what I did. Yeah, I decided I wanted to, I don't know, get the map image off of there. So I'm going to pull in these are Colorix crayons. So they're kind of like a Stabilo Woody or a Distress crayon or a Faber-Castell Gelato, just like a creamy water-soluble crayon. I put some brown and some lime green on there, and I've got a really wet paintbrush, and I'm just blurring that all over that semi-wet gesso. So, and then I'm going to dry everything. That's what I did, y'all. I did this just a couple days ago, but I've already done, like I said, the signature in the back pocket, and so everything is kind of a bit of a blur. So, all right. So now I think I'm going to bring in, no, I've decided, what am I doing, y'all? I don't even know. So I've got some black craft paint and I thought I'll just put some marks on here. So I started to put just these little, I don't know, dashy marks on here. And I thought I was going to cover the whole thing with it, but I immediately got bored. Like, I do not want to sit here and cover these whole papers with this. So I'm just going to make a border at the top and the bottom with this and then do something else in the middle because I was feeling antsy and it just, I don't know, it wasn't wasn't soothing my soul. It wasn't what my soul needed at the time. I knew I wanted texture on there, but I did not want to do it with tiny little marks. So, instead, I'm bringing in my Distress Oxide and Black Soot along with a hand carved stamp that is just, y'all, I don't even know. It's like a pyramid of circles that I'm sure I did like during Carved December or something. And I am putting that all over the inside of whatever we're making here. I don't even, it's going to be a backer for some of the stabilizing that we're doing with the bias tape. So I'm stamping all over there, and as I enjoy doing with most of the Distress Oxides, I'm going to bring in a small wet paintbrush to kind of blur some of that paint in there so that it gets kind of cloudy and that pigment is a little more obvious inside of the Distress Oxides. And it's, I don't know, it's what I love. And once I get that done, that's when I'm gonna blow dry this, y'all. That's what it is. So I did all of this with wet gesso, with wet what do you want to call that, like a watercolor crayon type thing? I don't know what you call those. Is there a general term for those, like blendable crayons? I don't know. But like I said, the ones I used are Colorix ones. I think I picked them up at a thrift store at some point, and I have tons of them. I did try to get just a little bit of my dried up instant coffee up to splatter on there for just a touch more grunginess. I'm not using a whole lot, as you can tell. I just did one little spritz of water in there because I was like, there's so much going on here. So now I'm going to try everything and then come back in and realize that the back of this photo has these like strips on it where I'm thinking maybe when they were printed, they had like tape or something so you could stick it in your scrapbook. And I started to peel those up and was like, no, maybe not, maybe I'll leave it. But then I realized that I'll realize in a minute that I'm gonna, since I started peeling them up, I'm gonna have to go ahead and peel them up because they're just not, the sticky is gone. So but first, I'm going to alter the front of this a little bit more, and I did grab a black Stabilo All pencil, which it means all because it writes on all surfaces, so it went great on that photo. And then I grabbed the graphite one as well, and also scribbled around all my little dots. I don't know why. It just, I think I just wanted to see if it worked as well with the graphite one as the black one, so it did okay. It was okay. And then using my Oohoo glue stick, I'm going to go ahead and stick that sentiment down now that my paint and everything is dry and go and try to assemble all of this. I'm going to pull out a little bit of some golden gloss gel medium. I think partly because it was handy. I tend to only use the gloss gel when I know it's going to be like hidden on something. Oh, here's where I'm going to peel that off. Because I don't really like glossy things, so I don't hardly ever use the gloss gel on top of anything. But because I just needed a really good medium or adhesive for the back of this photo, I decided that gloss gel will work just fine. So I'm going to pull it out. I did pick it up at an estate sale for like $2. So, you know, it's not like if it goes bad, it's going to be a problem. But anyway, so you can see I'm putting that gloss gel directly onto the bias tape so that, you know, I can see exactly what area it's going onto. And I will, and it also gives me kind of that straight line that I want also. So, and then I'm going to put it onto my photo on the back. And again, kind of line up the line of the bias tape with the photo. So get all that lined up. Oh, hi, Rosalina. I don't know if y'all can hear it. Rosalina's in here meowing at me. The cats are being cats, I suppose. And then I've got that map piece that I altered that I'm going to put on the back of this. Now, y'all, I don't know why I didn't just put it. when I was editing, there I go. Okay, I was like, why am I not putting anything in the middle of this? I couldn't remember if I had or not. I was like, did I not stick that whole thing down? But I did. I see it now. So, and this is just so that there's something kind of fun on the back of that photo, and it also sandwiches that bias tape to give it even more, like, it's not giving it stability, but just having it sandwiched between something. I don't know. I didn't want it to come flapping off or anything. So I am then going, there's a little bit of excess of that matte paper, which was, yeah, fine, because that's where I had that weird little border, and I'm going to just cut it off, kind of look at it, trying to avoid as best I can both the picture and the bias tape, because, oof, wouldn't that be a headache if I just cut the bias tape off? Oh my gosh, I can't. That would be my luck though, wouldn't it? So now I'm going to try to get everything a little bit lined up and look at it. I think I should have been a little more exact when I did some of it, but I realized that some of that tape in the, not tape, yeah, the bias tape in the back is going to show. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp more of that texture stamp right onto it, just so that, like, when it's laying like that, it also has the texture. So from there, it's time to pick out some buttons. So I started sorting my stash of ephemera from that pack and realized there's a button card in here. So I have matching buttons in here. And I'm going to go ahead and grab 2 of the ones off of this button card. I believe all the ephemera packs have a little bit of different something. They all have a button card. They all have a bunch of buttons. They all have vintage photos. They all have bias tape, those kind of things. They all have book pages in there. So if you wanted to play along with some of these crazy things I'm doing with this ephemera pack, you absolutely could grab one of those and do it, because there's a lot of the similar things in there. Nothing's the same, but similar. So now it's time to attach the buttons. I am cutting a slit in the bias tape that's on the front of the journal, just big enough that that button can get through. And I'm going to futz with this. I did cut out some of the futzing I did with this, but not all of it. So you can get to see that. And then I went and found some of the embroidery floss that's in there. There is both a couple spools of thread and a couple of laser cut spools with embroidery floss on them. So the laser cut spools are things that I designed. One's a butterfly, one's a mushroom, and just some regular old embroidery floss on them. So I'm using the embroidery floss because it's nice and strong to sew the button on. I already had some of the exact same color that was in this pack, some of this olive green, and I'm sewing it to that back, sewing the button to the back strap. These, for some reason, these keep reminding me of garters or suspenders or something. So I'm not real sure what to call them. I kind of want to, maybe suspenders, but it's not really suspending anything. I don't know. But yeah, they remind me of garters or suspenders or something like that. Some kind of, or belts. I don't know. It's just an interesting little thing that is a neat way to close this journal. And you can, I've sped the second one up. You can see that I'm going to put it on there the same way, but it's sped up. So yeah, because I'll snip it in the front and then make sure it's big enough and then sew on the button. And I may do more to this one, but you'll later. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and get some more of that thread on my needle, tie it off, and stick that button on, sew that button on. This has been such a fun experiment playing with this pack, and mostly I'm making myself stick to the pack, only pulling in little things that I need for my stash, like the stamp and the stamp pad and the paint, adhesives and little things that pretty much I think anybody with a craft stash would have. But I'm trying to work exclusively with that stamp pad, that ephemera pack, so that I don't know, so I can get experimental like this and get inspired and try different new things. Now I wasn't super happy with how floppy that was still feeling, like our little belted thing was going to fall right off. So I decided I'm going to, right at the spine, kind of sew on the bias tape. So I'm going in between the two holes of the pamphlet stitch that I did, and this got a little tricky. So because I wanted to come in from the front, but I wanted the hole punched from the inside so I could make sure it was right in the center. But I basically am going to tie it on to the that same embroidery floss that's on the center of the spine. So I'm pulling it through that back there, and then I'm going to come back in through the center and go on the other side of that original floss and then tie it off. So I'm trying to get on the other side of that and then just make, I think a double knot is all I'm going to do. So I do one, tighten it, and then two and tighten it. And then I will trim it down just a little bit. I couldn't decide how much of that I wanted to keep on there. And I'm going to do it one more time. I was trying to check and make sure I still had enough thread on there. And this doesn't prevent it completely from being floppy, but I really didn't want to. I mean, because I could have easily glued that photo to that front page, but I really liked that front page so much, the map and everything that's on there, that I didn't want it not to be available for journaling or arting on. So I'm so I'm doing the same thing, kind of punching that hole and then coming through the outside and then the inside, going through the same hole, but then making sure the needle comes up on the other side of the spine thread. And then tying a double knot real quick. So, and with that kind of used up the rest of my thread there. Once I get this all tied up and a little bit more secured, I'm going to focus on those two back straps that are, as you can see, flopping around themselves. So I'm going to button this closed, and you can see I put the button kind of down the bias tape a little, and that's going to allow for anything that's added inside that signature to be able to bulk up a little. So see how that slides around just a little bit more, but it's not like sliding off like it was. So I decided to use that other altered matte piece, but this time on the outside of the journal because it's kind of cool. But and I was thinking about it. So I was like, let's get everything. I need to find something else to stabilize the back of it to sandwich the bias tape. So I started by grabbing the like cardboard. The bias tape had been wound around, and I decided it was just kind of too big and bulky, and I wanted something that was a little bit smaller. So I started flipping through my bin of all the stuff that I still had from the Ephemera Pack, and I found this strip of like cardboard that I had torn off the back of a photo that I used on the coin envelope that I entered in part two, that I altered in part two. Like, sometimes my words just come out wrong. I know I'm not the only one, but sometimes I feel like it happens every time I get on here. Anyway, so I am going to trim it down, and it is super sturdy, and I probably need to alter it somehow. And you'll see in the photos, I haven't done that yet, but I can easily just, I don't know, doodle on it or something. I'm thinking just some lines or something could be super interesting. So I'm going to pull out again the gloss medium and glue all of this down. So I'm going to make basically another sandwich. First, I'm going to start with that matte paper and get it kind of lined up. I've pulled out my bias tape super straight. As straight as I thought I had it. I can see now that my journal is a little cattywampus. I probably should have noticed that, but it's okay. It's not altering this. This is just a fun way to use all of these bits. So once I turn it over, I'm going to go ahead and put my gloss gel medium over the entirety of that strip of sturdy board. I don't know what it is. I know what it was in the last video, and glue that down. I don't think there's much more to this. I'm gonna trim off, I think, straighten up some of the bias tape, like trim off some of that's overlapping too much, and then that'll be it for this interesting little altered I don't know, what are we calling it? Suspenders, belt, garter. It's a signature garter. I don't know. It's just holding the signature together, um, giving it a little bit more stability and interest, and kind of a cover, but not really a cover. I don't know. It was just something fun to play with. I would love to know what you think of it, if there's anything you would have done differently, if you have some other suggestions on ways to use this bias tape in a fun Mix Me Up project like this. Yeah. And if you're watching, let me know. I'd like to know if you're interested at all in this whole journey and process that I've got going on with this ephemera pack. So thanks so much for coming by and watching. And if you did watch this, and this is, it's that lime on there, leave me an emoji with like some kind of citrus fruit. That would be awesome, so I could see that you watched. All right, guys, I appreciate that you did watch, and I will see y'all later. Bye.